Hi, everyone. My name is John DePietro.
And I'm Bob Zagami with the Camper Report Show.
And Bob, there is a new craze that's overtaking the RV industry, and it is electric bikes. And we're going to talk with the founder and CEO of Pedego Electric Bikes and show how they are impacting RVers.
And I'm going to talk with Ed Bridgman, who has just developed the Homestead RV Community around Mobile, Alabama. Ed has a unique vision of where resorts and campgrounds should be for future RVers as we get more technology oriented, and he's got quite a project going. We should have some fun.
Those great stories, plus all the news provided to us by our friends at RV Business. But before we get to that, folks, take a second and down in the bottom right-hand portion of your screen, there's a little button that says subscribe. Hit that button, then every time we do a new broadcast or special broadcast, you'll be the first to know about it. Right here, Bob, where?
At the Camper Report Show.
And welcome back to the news segment of the Camper Report Show. Bob, again, I'm going to risk sounding like a broken record, but every week we see news stories in non-RV categories talking about the boom in the RV industry. And there's some new figures that just came out, and it seems like they keep raising the projections all the time. Talk about that.
Well, you're right, John. It seems like it's the same story, but it's a new chapter every week.
Right.
This week, the statistics are up to 575,000 projected sales of RVs this year. And that's up from a high of about 243,000 on the last report, and it's up 14%. And it's amazing when you think about the conditions in the industry with respect to our dealers being able to get their inventory replacements, suppliers getting parts to the manufacturers, and to get all of this information into the system, get the products on the lot. 575,000 is yeoman's work, and if they hit that, it's going to be tough to break it. That's an absolutely incredible number. We have never, ever been near 600,000 RV units in a year.
The interesting thing is, just a few years ago, that benchmark of 500,000 units, if we could just do 500,000, okay? And now, just a few years later, we're looking at almost a 20% increase over the prior record numbers. And right. It's just really is amazing.
It is. It's going to be fun to watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
No wonder our dealers don't answer the phone calls, or companies don't answer their phone calls. They don't want to talk to the media guys. They get more than enough publicity.
Yeah, exactly. And the other interesting story that came out, again, courtesy of our friends at RV Business, is they did a follow-up on a story that came out in a magazine called Newswheel that shows the affluence of the new RV buyer. Now, I think it's no secret to say that 10 or 15 years ago, people thought of RVers as people that really didn't visit the dental office much and didn't do much in terms of getting out of their RV, putting a lounge chair out front, sitting in front of a campfire for the whole weekend, watching TV and drinking Budweiser, whether it was warm or cold. The new numbers are totally different, because I've read that their income, the income category that RVers fall into, is higher than most of American households.
Yeah, they're talking about $87,000 as an average income. The thing that I thought was interesting in the article is that they say the average price of the RV that these people are buying is $75,000. And I'm going to take exception to that.
There's no way. I mean, if we, in our prior shows where we showed that towable units were like 9-to-1 or 8-to-1 over motorized, I mean, those price tags are anywhere between the low 20s and the high 60s. So we're wondering where they might be getting those figures, huh?
Yeah, I'd like to see the data behind the figures. It's nice to throw those figures out there, but when you realistically assess where the RVs are being purchased, almost 90% of them now were towables in the last report. And as you say, the towables are at the lower end of the financial spectrum. And yes, there's $300,000 units and $500,000, but not in the numbers that would get anywhere near a $75,000 average price tag to them. I just don't think that's a realistic price tag. It's probably getting close to that. I could probably think of maybe a $50,000 average for what's out there, but I'd really like to see the data because I'm not familiar with that particular publication. So I'll dig a little bit deeper on that and see what we can find. But the fact of the matter is that RVers are an affluent buying group right now, that the lifestyle has been elevated over the last 10 or 20 years, significant development in RV resorts, upgrades to campgrounds with luxury patio sites and waterfront sites. So there's certainly a different aura about RVers and in general, what they bring to the marketplace. And what they bring to the marketplace is a lot of money.
Yep. And the biggest paradigm switch is the age group of people that are buying, because right now the largest share of the RV buyer, people that are actively in the market right now, is the millennials. And the median age is 41. Now you can do all you want with medians, average, et cetera, but regardless of which way you sliced it, not economically, but demographically, the RV buyer is getting younger. And it showed in another study, everybody's doing studies, by the way, everybody's doing studies about the RV industry. They expect 56 million Americans to be camping at some time this summer. And that's an amazing number as well.
Well, when you get as much media attention as the RV industry has received over the last 5 years, and certainly the last 2 years, because we were really ramping up there prior to the pandemic. And what really shocked a lot of people was the recovery during the pandemic. What was it about this audience that attracted them to RVs? And that generated a lot of different studies from outdoor hospitality groups, from different RV groups, different RV associations. So there's a lot of good data out there right now. In addition to what Go RVing has invested in with the number of surveys and the revamping of the Go RVing website. So yeah, there's a real good reason for all those studies, and every one of them is positive. There is not a negative aspect to any of those studies or the popularity of the lifestyle, other than maybe having a little difficulty finding campgrounds. Because when you go back to that number of 575,000, that's almost close to 100,000 more than we did last year, at least 75,000 more. So where are we going to put all those campers?
Which leads us to our next story. That was a perfect segue, Bob. Perfect segue from everybody wants to go camping. Where are they going to go? Now, we have already had our friend Billy up at Loons Haven say that, in March, she was pretty much sold out for this season up in the great state of Maine. And I know that many of the campgrounds over Memorial Day weekend, at least in the Northeast, were sold out. So our friends, again, we found this on RV Business, and our friends Mike and Jennifer Wendland just did a very interesting story. We'll have the link there for it. They can see it directly. People are buying land for campsites. And I'm not talking about just buying a site in a campground, but they're big tracts of land that you have the capability to put a concrete pad on and build the building, so that instead of having a summer home that is a stick-built home, you have a summer home that is compatible with your RV. And that is a very interesting change in how people are RVing.
It is, but when you look at it, John, it goes right in line with what we've talked about the last few weeks with the real estate investment companies investing in RV resorts, upscale campgrounds. And when you look and compare it to what happens in the real estate business, this is just another aspect of it, because there will be, in fact, land sites that are sold to people to put whatever they want on there, and they can customize them. And it's just like buying a second home on the lake, but in the case of the one that Mike Wendland talked about, the landings in Tennessee, it's on a river. And yes, somebody could build houses there, but they see the attraction of RVs and they say, hey, why don't we just turn over the land? We'll buy this big tract of land, we'll put in the infrastructure, and we'll sell the lots. And some people will put little mini houses on there. Some people have put overhead roofs so that their RVs are protected underneath.
Yep.
There's infrastructure improvements that they can do themselves because they own the land. It's always going to be there. It's not going to be a seasonal site somewhere and the campground gets sold or somebody has a different viewpoint. It's a very attractive offering, I think, very timely for the RV industry.
Yep. And, it's just another differentiation in how people get to use their RVs, because again, you can go to the full service campground that has cable TV, it's got power, it's got electricity. And then you look at the people that might have an interest in that unit right behind me, that Echo from Winnebago, that don't have any interest in a campground, that want to be as far away from civilization as possible. But again, it shows the diversity in the way people are enjoying their RV, whether it be towable, whether it be motorized, whether it be four-wheel drive, or whether it be a folding pop-up. It's growing.
And just as we say with RVs, that there's one for every budget, there are land developments with the same spectrum of purchase options. You can buy some for a piece of land for $49,000 in Tennessee on a river, or you can go down to Naples, Florida, to the Naples Motor Coach Resort and buy your pad for $150,000 on a river or a lake front. And that's before you buy your RV. So again, it goes back to that number and the wealth and the income levels that we see coming into the industry. But it is not unusual for somebody to buy it at the Naples Motor Coach Resort, not unusual to buy a $150,000 lot and put a $500,000 motorhome on it.
But you know what? With all the economic diversity that there is, and the demographic diversity, the amazing thing about RVers is if you're in a pop-up and a 45-foot Prevost pulls in next to you, everybody is willing to help each other out, which I think is a very unique aspect of RVing that many other vacation properties don't have.
Well, it's one of the things that draws people to the lifestyle. If you go into a hotel, you're not going to know the person in the next room. You don't want to know the person in the next room.
Exactly.
You like the outdoors. You want to socialize in the outdoors, and you're right. You can have a beer with the person next door to you or a glass of wine, and nobody asks for titles and nobody asks for business cards. You're just enjoying the lifestyle to its fullest.
And that's exactly what we want to show people here on the Camp Report Show. And we want to let you know that the news segment is sponsored in part and coordinated in part by our friends at RV Business. And just click down the bottom right to subscribe. And there is much, much more coming up on this edition of what, Bob?
The Camper Report Show.
So stay with us, everybody.
Mike here from RV Blogger. Don't waste hundreds of dollars on an external GPS for your RV. All you need to do is download the RV Life app right onto your phone. This app is so cool. It has RV GPS built right into it. So you can load all the specific measurements and weights for your RV. It'll give you directions safe for your RV to follow. And by the way, if you have RV Trip Wizard, directions for your trips upload into this GPS automatically.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Camper Report Show. And my guest this morning is Ed Bridgman from Homestead RV Community in Alabama, but also EOB Campground Consulting. Ed, give us a little bit of background.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. After my tour in the Air Force, I was at Motorola, and I'm one of the 5 original co-authors of Six Sigma. Many people in the manufacturing industry especially will be familiar with the concept that Six Sigma is all about exceeding the customer's expectations, anticipating and understanding and exceeding the customer's expectations while making a profit. So I'm one of the original 5 co-authors of Six Sigma, and we won the first Malcolm Baldrige Award presented by President Ronald Reagan, and I traveled around the country for several years teaching and evolving Six Sigma and helping companies exceed their customers' expectations. And so I've been a consultant for over 30 years. And about 10 years ago, there was this big oil spill out in the Gulf. I'm sure you heard about it.
Yeah.
And BP was fined $24 billion, had to be spent on tourism along the Gulf. And I said, I need to be in the tourism industry. I started researching and found the RV industry is on fire, blowing up like nothing else. So I purchased my land in January of 2013, and I've been developing RV destinations for other people for the past 9 years. And I just finished my flagship, Homestead RV Community in South Mobile, Alabama.
Well, you know, that's a great story. And I am very familiar with the Malcolm Baldrige Award. I remember when Motorola won the very first one. And I also have an Air Force background. So we got more in common than we thought, just besides campgrounds and RVs. But you have a nice way of categorizing campgrounds or outdoor resorts. You have 4 different categories, and you've built what you see as the newest category, and what you feel is the vision that our industry should be looking at when you take everything into consideration: the rising number of RV sales, the changing demographics of RVers and campers, the changing needs of the campers with respect to amenities and the types of things that they want. So give us a brief overlook of those 4 types of resort and what your new one is all about.
Thank you. So we are all familiar with RV parks. They're along the interstate. We see them in exits, a place for the driver to rejuvenate from their point of where they started to where they're going. They stop halfway in between, and they go to the bathroom and they sleep, and they go on with their journey. I advocate that we should not be investing in RV parks, that with autonomous vehicles, you're going to get in, you're going to program the vehicle, take me to Disney World, you're going to get in the back, microwave your popcorn, play with the kids, go to bed, and wake up in Disney World. You're not going to need to rejuvenate along the way. So I advocate parks are going to drastically change. So then at the same time, we had campgrounds. So campgrounds have been around also for about 100 years, and they're across the street from Disney World. The Disney World is the destination. Grand Canyon is the destination, but you have to have some place to camp overnight while you're enjoying these attractions someplace else. So campgrounds will always be around, and we should be investing in campgrounds. Unfortunately, most of the land around Disney World and the Grand Canyon that is suitable for a campground has already been purchased. So campgrounds, you have to anticipate where the next national park is going to be. And as a matter of fact, my property just happens to be 0.7 of a mile from the national park that was announced just last year and will be open in a couple of years, the newest national park. So, it's kind of good to anticipate that and purchase that land before that announcement. So that's parks and campgrounds. Well, then about 20 years ago, the average RV is selling for $109,000. And people are saying, I want to travel for less distance, but I want to use this thing more often. I want to use it all the time, but I don't want to go to the Grand Canyon every time. And that was the birth of the resort. So now we have this resort. It's not along a major thoroughfare. It may be out in the middle of nowhere, but you have to provide the amenities that will attract those people to you now. You have to have something for the children to do because you're a resort. So we have parks, campgrounds, and resorts, but every single one of these places, if you will drive around to every single one of these places, you will notice that there are RVs that are there for long term. And I define that by over a month. There are people in each of these destinations that are there long term. So that started the community. RV communities are where people choose to live. People must be able to work where they live, and they must be able to live where they choose to vacation. Therefore, we now have communities.
You know, it's very interesting because in looking at the website that you've developed for the Homestead RV Community, I was really impressed with the way that you associate with the community. Lots of times campgrounds are there and they'll just list 3 or 4 things that you can do while you're there, but you've done the homework for people. You've got attractions, you've got restaurants, you've got local popular places to visit with direct links into their website. So you've actually embedded your logic and your vision into the way that you're presenting the Homestead RV Community. Now, I understand it's just recently opened, but this is your flagship product. And you didn't come to this as somebody that woke up in the middle of the night and saying, I think I want to build a campground. Your background with the consulting company was very extensive. So you've actually helped other people and still are helping other people build this type of community and resort. So give us your vision on that aspect of the business.
Exactly. I work with other people to maximize the value of their property. I designed the destination that the location determines the destination. The destination determines the customer. The customer determines the amenities you have to have. The amenities you have to have determines what the construction cost is going to be. The construction cost combined with the competitive analysis identifies what the market is and how much you're going to be able to get revenue. So I create a feasibility analysis with a 10-year cash flow, which is exactly what the investors must have, so that I can show you how long it's going to take to build, how much money it's going to take, and when you're going to get a return on your investment. I help people with property, or people who are selecting property, people who are getting ready to buy property, they're doing their due diligence, they contact me. I come out and do an entire feasibility analysis. I present it myself personally to their investors, because their investors will ask, where'd you get these numbers? And they can't answer that. I have to tell them where I got these numbers. What I found was that I was doing an awful lot of work for large corporations, and they were limiting me on how much of these numbers I could share. How much does that site cost? When did that site break even? When did I get a return on my investment? I was always having to go get permission to share those numbers. Homestead RV Community is 100% mine, and I can tell you exactly to the penny what it cost. We broke ground on March 9th. We came in $250,000 under budget. We came in 2 months ahead of schedule. We got our certificate of occupancy on the second week of February, and I was able to cover all my operating costs on the end of March. I'm able to show those numbers. I'm able to demonstrate those Excel spreadsheets and show them that we're currently collecting 1.44 new reservations per day average, and each one is averaging $267.50 per sale. So I can show exactly where those numbers came from. I can show exactly how that works with Homestead in particular. Also, Homestead allowed me to leapfrog the technology. Homestead is the most technologically advanced RV destination in the world. I designed the software, I designed the hardware. We monitor both the electric and the water continuously at every site and at every building. It's very important that you do it both at the buildings and the sites. And like I mentioned, we're brand new. We had a site number 12 a couple of weeks ago. Nobody had ever been there. Nobody had ever been on that site. All of a sudden started leaking. And my system was able to catch it immediately. And instead of wasting hundreds of gallons of water throwing it in the ditch, we were able to get out there and stop that leak within a few minutes because my system knew it was there.
You know, one of the things that's very interesting about the way that you're approaching the business, and this comes from your Six Sigma background, but you know, the value of Six Sigma is to think ahead a couple of years before you have the problems, before you have the issues that come about. And that's what you've built into this. So your thinking's ahead of what the typical campground industry is doing right now. And you're using it with technology and with data and automating the entire process. And it's interesting that it's coming at a time when we are seeing now for the first time in 10 years, tremendous interest from real estate investment trust and investment bankers that realize commercial real estate is on the downslide right now. They need to have someplace else to make their money, to invest their money. And they are looking very seriously at campgrounds and resorts. So you did all of this and prepared for it, and then woke up one day and said, the market's ready for me.
Well, at Motorola, I was the director of Advanced Products Research Development Laboratory, where we designed microprocessors 2 years ahead of the market. We designed them, built them, tested them, and destroyed them because the market wasn't ready for them yet. But we were anticipating that the market would be. So that's exactly what I've done here. You know, people in Alabama, it's against the law to get in a public pool with other families. You're supposed to wait your turn and schedule. My family goes in this hour, somebody else's family goes in next hour. We don't have a pool, okay? We have individual hot and cold jetted hot tubs. For an upcharge, we bring this tub to your site, set it up with either hot water or cold water. It's got a lid on it. You decide who gets in your water, and you have it. I don't ever go to the bank. I don't collect any cash. I don't collect any credit card on site. Everything is done virtually. I don't have camp workers right now. Granted, I would like to have a camp worker. My 80-year-old mother cleans the bathrooms, and they are 10, same 10 I have on the wall here, and the same cinder blocks I have in the back. You can literally go in with a garden hose and wash them down. My 80-year-old mother washes the bathrooms. I set up sites. If you want to wash your clothes, you go in, you take a picture of the QR code on the washing machine. You say you want hot water on your phone. You add money to it from your phone, and the washing machine turns on when you push start on your phone. Okay. I've never gone to the bank. I don't have any coin. I don't make any change. I don't collect anything like that. Everything is done remotely. I have a store. I have a store on the other side of this wall. You go onto my app, Homestead RV Community app. You say, I want to buy this chair, buy it. That's fine with me. I get a buzz on my business phone, and I say, Sites 24 just bought this chair. It's paid for. Go take it. I get out of the storage room, take it to Site 24. It's Amazon in 10 minutes instead of overnight. It's Amazon in 10 minutes.
So tell us a little bit about the future growth of Homestead. So now you have this model community. It's all set up in an area that is very popular with snowbirds. You're going to get a lot of traffic with snowbirds down in Alabama and the Gulf Coast. It's a very attractive place for people to go. But you're starting out with 59 sites. What's next?
I have expansions. Phase 2 will start probably sometime next year at the rate that we're growing. And that'll take me to 142 sites. And then phase 3 will take me to 250 sites. Yes, we're less than 2 miles from the bay, and we're less than about 9 miles from Dolphin Island. But what's very important is that we're at 24 feet elevation. And that's important because if there is a storm in the Gulf, June 1st starts the hurricane season. When there is a storm out in the Gulf, if it's coming towards land, they will call a mandatory evacuation. Now, 90% of the people don't evacuate. That's fine. But if you suffer damage during this storm when you chose not to evacuate, or if you're from up north and you left your RV down here someplace below 20 feet elevation and you receive damage, your insurance is null and void, okay, because you ignored the warning. But if I'm at 24 feet elevation, so therefore you can leave your RV with me year round and come down in the wintertime and leave it with me in the summertime. But if there's a storm and you somehow receive some damage, your insurance is still valid.
That's amazing. Well, Ed, our guest this morning has been Ed Bridgman with the Homestead RV Community in Alabama and his campground consulting company. And you certainly have done your homework. You've got an interesting project going there, and we're glad that you could join us this morning on the Camper Report Show. Any last words for our fans?
I appreciate this opportunity to share. I'm passionate about the industry. I can build one of these for you too. Please give me a call at, what is my phone number? 251-973-2484.
We'll make sure we put that down below. Ed, thank you very much for joining us today.
All right. Thank you.
I'm Jesse from Outsiders Calling, and I love adventurous family travel with my wife Jenny and our son Tucker.
For over 3 years, we've RV'd across the U.S. and Mexico, and it's tough to find places that meet all our needs.
Now we plan our trips with the RV Trip Wizard. Pull it up in the RV Life app, select it, and go.
It helps us discover amazing new places to grow together as a family.
RV Trip Wizard with the RV Life app is an awesome trip planning combination.
You can get both for one low annual price. Check out rvlife.com to learn more.
And welcome back to this segment of the Kemper Report Show. My name is John DePietro, and you know what, folks? If you've watched this show enough, you know that we meet interesting RVers all over the country. And one of the activities that RVers are really getting into lately, more than ever before, is bicycling. But not just regular old bicycling. They are getting into e-bikes like never before. The fact is, e-bikes have been around in Europe for years and years and are just starting to make it big in America. And one of the reasons that they're making it big in America is because of the gentleman that is sitting right across from me here. His name is Don DiConstanzo, and the company is, Don, tell him.
Pedego.
Pedego. So you may have seen RVers in the campground. You may have seen them on the highway with the bike strapped to the back of the RV, whether they be a big toy hauler like we have here. And in that case, Don, right, you wouldn't have to put it outside. You could put it inside. But tell us about Pedego, and tell us about the relationships that RVers have with Pedego, because I'm seeing more and more Pedegos at RV parks and actually all over the place.
So thanks, John, and thanks for having me on your show. The first thing I want to talk about is how Pedego got started. Pedego got started because me, a 50-year-old guy, loved to ride my bike, was tired of going up the hills, and therefore I gave up cycling. So I discovered the joys of an electric bike, and I bought 6 or 7 one year back in 2006, and I had a lot of fun riding. So in 2007, I opened up a retail store in Newport Beach, California, to sell nothing but electric bikes. And I was frustrated because the companies that were making them really weren't committed to it. They didn't have the right styles, they didn't have the right colors, and most importantly, they didn't have any service to back them up. So in 2008, I sold my car wash business and started Pedego. I own 40 car washes. Sold that business and started Pedego from scratch, and struggled the first few years like most new companies do. People didn't quite get what electric bikes were all about. But once I got them exposed to them and got them to try them, we found all kinds of people buying, but mostly people 50 plus. A lot of RVers bought the bikes because they realized instead of towing a big rig behind them, they could throw a couple bikes on the back or put them inside
and
take
get
off.
Exercise.
And that's the most important part. So when you park at an RV park and you want to go explore the town or the city that you're in, you usually have to have another car. But if you have an electric bike, you really don't. It kind of substitutes that. It's kind of the cross between having motorcycles, having a car, or having bicycles. And bicycles are the only ones that are going to give you a whole lot of fun, and more importantly, that's some exercise. But it not only stimulates you physically, it's got incredible mental stimulation because your mind is fully activated. As we get older, we tend to lose our balance. The more you ride a bike, the more you get your balance back. Right?
You bring up a very interesting point, and I think the thing that our viewers should point out and should be aware of is that when we say pedal assist, these are not, it is pedal assist. I want to get into that in a second, but these are not mopeds, and they're not motorbikes. These are regular bicycles that you can drive as a bicycle if you want, or you can add a little bit of power to it so that there's the assist part. So somebody who may be getting on in age, like 60.
That's young today.
As we look back on 60 in the rearview mirror, these are perfect vehicles because they give you the capability for additional mobility, but the exercise factor, and again, you don't feel trapped in the campground anymore.
Right. You're going to get out and explore and see where you want. But even more importantly than that, it's something that gets you in with the community. The community, you're out riding a bike rather than driving around in a car. You get to see things you haven't get to see. We're parked right here now on the Cape Cod Seashore Trail, okay? We're parked on this fabulous trail that goes all the way from Bourne all the way up to Provincetown, I understand.
Yep.
And you can jump on this trail and ride. Park your RV right here in the parking lot, jump out, unroll them out and go. And this particular one, because it's got a garage in the back of it, called a toy hauler, it's perfect for bikes. This will hold 8 bikes. So it's it sleeps 14, but only has 8 bikes. So I guess you could carry a few more on the back
exactly,
of that.
exactly. And we should say we are in an RV. We are in a Thor.
It was born as a Thor Outlaw.
Yeah.
It's a 2021 Thor Outlaw that we purchased and picked up in November. And we wrapped it, and it went on its maiden voyage to Gilbert, Arizona at the end of November. And since then, it's been on a road show, and it's been all over the South,
the
Texas, all the way down to the panhandle of Florida, deep into Florida, all throughout the South, up through Virginia. It was in New Jersey and Pennsylvania last week. This week it was in New England, and it's heading back to Ohio next week.
Okay, so RVers, they don't, well, there's two different groups of RVers. The ones that are the weekenders that go out on a Friday, come back on a Sunday, and they take their bikes with them, and they might travel, you know, on Saturday is their day that they're at the park or at the place of their destination. Then there's the other type that are the full-timers that have the bikes. Now, how do you deal with the situation, business-wise, that if someone is from Massachusetts, they bought it right here, you know, in Yarmouth, Massachusetts, but now they are out in, for example, somewhere Texas or Oklahoma, and they find that they've got a little issue with the bike. What do they do then?
Well, first of all, I can tell you it's a lot easier than getting an RV fixed. So all you have to do is stop in one of the 175 stores that we have in the U.S. and Canada. And by the way, this doesn't depict all the stores. This is just the 80 stops we're making on this year. We have 175 locations. So if you don't see it on the map, we have them in Minnesota and throughout the whole country. We have 175 stores open right now. Any one of them are delighted to service it, to come in and take care of it and to help you out. I was just in Portsmouth, New Hampshire yesterday. An RVer was in there. His bike broke down. They gave him a loaner while they fixed his bike because they had to wait for a part, and he had a loaner. So something else you won't get in the RV industry.
You're not going to get that line about, well, you know what? Look it. We're in Houston, Texas. You bought that in Massachusetts. Go back there and get it fixed.
No way.
That's not going to be happening.
Nope. They love to. You're welcome in all 175 locations, no matter where you bought it.
Okay. Types of bikes. I have a lovely wife who said, oh, I don't feel as though I can ride a bike anymore because I'm afraid of falling. You had mentioned to me that there might be a solution to that, and there might be several other people that fall into that same category.
So most of the people that we offer our bikes to haven't ridden a bike in a long time. In fact, about 10% of the population are regular cyclists. The other 90% haven't ridden a bike in 10, 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 years. Not unusual. They want to learn how to get back in riding. We don't recommend that they run out and buy a bike, anybody's bike, a Pedego or anybody else. Go out and test ride them, try them, because we make 18 different models. We make 3-wheel models, we make folding bikes, we make full-size bikes, we make cruiser bikes, we make fat tire bikes, we make mountain bikes. It's like buying a pair of shoes. You can't, a pair of shoes.
No one size fits all.
No one size fits all. And everybody has a different leg size. They might be 6 foot tall, but they need a shorter bike because they have short legs. Or they might be 6 foot tall and they need a bigger bike because they've got long legs. So we recommend that they try them. Don't ever buy an electric bike and make an investment in an electric bike until you get a chance to try them. The beauty of what we offer is every one of our stores rents the bike. So you can rent them for an hour, 2 hours, a day, a week, a month if you want. You rent it, and typically it applies towards the purchase price if you rent them. So if you decide you want to buy one.
Okay. Yeah, it'll go right toward that.
Exactly.
So we're going to take some pictures of the actual bikes because we've got a big grand opening going on.
Yes, we're
right
here today. We're in Yarmouth, Massachusetts on Memorial Day. We're having a clam bake, a red, white, and blue clam bake. And we've invited all the customers that have bought bikes in the area to come in today. And I think we got almost 100 people scheduled to be here today. Never know with the weather. It's not exactly picture perfect.
We all have our winter clothes.
It's a bit on the chilly side, but it's not going to stop us from going out from having a great clam bike and taking a bike ride, maybe up to the local winery.
Okay, so that's a story. Pedego Bikes is the name of the bike. If you're an RVer, you know what? Look at go to Pedego Bikes.
Pedego.com.
Pedego.com, and they will send you a catalog, and I think the whole catalog is online as well.
You can get the catalog online. If you put your name in there, we're happy to mail you a catalog. Very few people do that today, but we have this 50-page or 70-page magalog that'll give stories about how people have used the bikes.
Magalog, folks. There's a new word. That's part magazine and part catalog.
Exactly.
Right?
The
Magalog.
The very front of it is all magazine, and the back of it is all the catalog about it. It tells you about how far the bike will go, what the range will be. Any question you want to that you would ask is in this magalog. So yeah, it's Pedego. That's how you spell it. Pedego. And it's pedego.com. And you can also find where all the stores are located on that map too, under located dealer.
Okay, so that is the story. My name is John DePietro. This is the Camper Report Show. His name is Don DiConstanzo. He's the big guy at Pedego.